So, Walker, tell us a little bit about your story, like what you do for a living, and maybe you can lead from graduating college, or maybe a little bit of your college experience going into what you're doing, how you got into doing what you're doing now, and then how you got into creating your side hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about me. I grew up. My dad was a dentist, still is a dentist, and so I grew up my whole life wanting to be my dad. He's a very tall man, very athletic. I always wanted to be 6'6". I wanted to be taller than him. I wanted to be 6'6", go play college basketball. Be like my dad, and then eventually go into his dental practice and do that. And so going into college, that's what I did. I didn't go play college ball, of course, because I'm definitely not 6'6". But control the things that you can, or worry about the things you can control. So I went into college, dead set on going to dental school, which is a great path for a lot of people. But for me, as I was going through the program, my undergraduate, I found that I wasn't loving the classes and I wasn't doing as well as I had hoped. But probably now thinking about it, it's because I found I wasn't super passionate about that. And my wife and I, we were actually just talking about this the other day. You probably remember this, Jake. When we at BYU Idaho, they had I think they were called like the IBC groups. Basically, like part of the business program, you had to, for a semester or two, had to do the business, like create a business from the ground up and do all that. And every semester, I was like, man, that looks so fun. And I was like, but I was like, oh, it's not in my program, but it's so super cool. Those guys are having so much fun. Those guys and girls are having so much fun. Wish I could do that. Um, my wife and I, we didn't clue into that I love entrepreneurial, have that bug.
Uh-huh.
And so I was just, again, dead set on school. And anyway, got further down the road in school, and finally kind of hit me. I was like, I probably don't want to do this. So let's try to figure something else out. I was too far along in my program at BYU Idaho because they have the credit cap. So they're like, you have to graduate as quick as you can. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try to do grad school or try to figure it out somehow. A very big blessing of going to BYU Idaho is that they require internships. At the time, it was kind of a pain because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so I was like, felt like I was jumping through hoops just to graduate. I wish I would have looked at it in a different light. But when I, ended up getting this internship with it's called Magellan Health, and end up interning for them for about 6 months, and then got hired on full time, which ended up being an incredible blessing. I loved my time there. And that's a healthcare company. Don't have to go
Yeah,
into.
what did you do exactly for Magellan?
Yeah, so I was interning for them. I did operations and customer experience for them. So I mean, being an intern, I wasn't like on the front lines by any means. I
You were
was
you
told
were
what
going
to
and
do.
picking up coffee for people, huh?
Not
isn't
quite
that
that
isn't that
low.
how
Yeah,
internships go?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, no. So it was still a really good learning experience. I found that I really enjoyed that type of work, and being in the healthcare field still. And so when I was there, I did a lot of, like I said, I was in the operations department, did a lot of customer experience, made sure that our members, our customers were being taken care of and how we could better their experience essentially. From there, I got hired onto a team that was just created. So it was two gentlemen, and then they hired me to do product development. And we all kind of, like, we were just opening the department. So that was a really good opportunity. And it kind of had that entrepreneurial bug because they were just like, the company was kind of like, we have this idea, go do it. And so we had to figure out what we wanted to do. In a nutshell, what we were responsible for was developing programs and products for our clients, whether that was something completely new in the industry or something that, like a Me Too program. So if like another company, one of our competitors had it, we tried to do that same thing but enhance it. So I worked with all parts of the company. I worked with clinical folks, so like physicians, even like pharmacists, nurses, and then also I worked with our legal team. I worked with our finance team. So I really got to know the industry really, really well. And then my team was incredible. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. From there, or while I was in that role, I ended up taking over this one product, and we had a vendor that we used and worked with them for probably about 2 years, maybe about 2.5 years. And from there, I saw on LinkedIn one day that they had a job posting, and I was like, "Hey, I love this company. These people are incredible. The product's awesome." And I was just like, "Let's take a shot." So I applied for it, and started working there. Actually, that's called Impulse Mobile. Started working there about 2 months ago, actually. So been there, loving it. Now with them, I'm an account manager. So we have clients, we manage their book of business, and make sure that they're taken care of, and create and grow their programs that they have with us.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about this entrepreneurial bug though that you had. So,
Yes, sir.
because you and I met in college, and if I remember correctly, at the same time, because I was originally going to school to be a dentist too, and I think we were
Yeah.
doing that at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I ended up switching to business and doing the IBC thing and all that you talked about. But so you still have this itch that hasn't quite been scratched, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and so how did it come about that you started this window cleaning business that seems to be doing pretty well?
Yeah. So when I interned for Magellan, it was down in Arizona. That's where my whole family is. But it was only a part-time internship. So I wasn't taking any classes. So I only worked about 20 hours a week. And I was like, I want to do something else. So I was talking to my brother, and he's like, "Hey, why don't we try to do Christmas lights?" And he's like, he's an attorney. He didn't have time to actually go install the Christmas lights and all that stuff. But being a poor college student, I couldn't fund it from the ground up. And so he's like, "What if I fund it and you do the manual labor, but you also just kind of run it?" He's like, "I'll just be your source of income." um, so so that's where it kind of got started. During my internship, I did that, and it was so fun. I loved it. So after the Christmas season, after I took them down, I was like, "Oh, well, I want to keep doing something. I want to keep, I want to grow this somehow." And so I was like, what could I do that's like a service based, could potentially use the same clients. And I was like, what about window cleaning? And it wasn't any, groundbreaking thing, but I was just like, it's fun. I love being outside, doing things with my hands, and I liked creating a business. So that's how it started. So I have to, I give, credit to my brother, because he didn't like find that entrepreneurial bug in me, but he helped me open that door to get started.
I remember when we were in college, you and I talked about starting a mobile detailing business together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I kind of wish we would have pulled the trigger on that.
Me too.
That
Looking
would have,
back, I've thought of
yeah,
that many
looking
times.
back,
Yeah.
I wish that would have been a perfect time to learn and grow and
Yeah.
scratch that itch that I think we both had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So
Definitely.
tell us a little bit about the business. So, um, so you're doing this job that you've got right now full time as an ads or account manager.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to find time, or what have you done to be able to get this thing going? Because I think there's a lot of people out there, especially since COVID and stuff has happened. I think a lot of people are starting to think about side hustles a lot more, or
Yeah.
what they can do on the side to earn extra income or whatever. How, what some advice can you give them, or what steps did you take to get to that point where you're like, yeah, I'm pulling the trigger on this, and now I've got a business going?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So with me, with my situation, it was last year. So actually, let me take a step back. So when I was in Arizona, we did, the window cleaning after the Christmas lights. Then after I got hired on full time from the company that I interned with, we moved up to Utah, where we are now. And so because it was a pretty sudden move, And so moved up here, new job. I didn't want to focus on that at the time, doing a side hustle at the time. Just wanted to focus on my job. Then last year during COVID, I've always wanted to start something again, like because I have that bug. So last year came around and I was working Eastern time. My whole team was on the East Coast, and so I worked from like 6 to 3. So I had a couple hours of daylight, and so I was like, why don't I try to do window cleaning? So I talked to one of my buddies here, and he had somewhat of a flexible schedule as well, and so we just made it work. What we would do is, we after getting everything set up, the way that we made it work with our schedules was we just did window cleaning after work. So we usually do like one job a day, probably around 4 jobs a week. And then we're like, hey, we're getting more clients than we can handle. And so we ended up getting a couple guys that had recently graduated high school, and they worked for us. And anyway, so that's kind of how we got going to start.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your business. So are you doing both residential and commercial? How many clients have you gotten up to now? And tell us a little bit about your role now in the business. Cause it sounds like when you first got started, you were doing a lot of the stuff yourself, but it sounds like things might've changed.
Yeah, exactly. So we, just like you're saying, we now have grown quite a bit, both commercial and residential. Residential definitely is our bigger book. We have quite a few residential clients. So it's basically just like homes. But then we have tried to get commercial. Now we're not the guys that are coming down the skyscrapers, being, in the harnesses going down. That would terrify me. But we have, there's like 2, 3, maybe even 4-story buildings that we do for office buildings. So we do both of those. And like you said, from the get-go, my buddy and I, his name's McKay, we did everything. We did, the bookkeeping, the marketing, the sales, the actual work, all ourselves. Now, with having crew members, we solely focus on like the marketing, sales, obviously like still bookkeeping, and then trying to, and just like the strategy behind it of how to figure out the best systems for our crew, and then also how to take care of them best and make them feel valued. And so anyway, now we're just trying to scale the business.
That's awesome. So how many guys do you have in total counting? So obviously there's you and your partner. How many guys do you have total working for you?
Yeah. So with the 2 of us, and then we now have 2 crew members.
Cool. That's awesome. So it went from doing the grind to less of the grind, and now you've got people working for you.
Yeah. It's fun.
It's fun. So I hear this often. It's like from small business owners that are solo operators. I hear all the time, they're like, well, no one's going to be able to do the job as good as I can. No one can take care of the business as good as I can. I'll hear stuff like, it's hard to find good people to work. And then, so it's not worth the time, the money, effort anyways, because you're going to end up firing them anyways. And just all this negativity, but it sounds like it's working out for you. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on some of those kind of comments.
Yeah. I can definitely see why people can think that way. One of my favorite guys that I follow, he has no idea I exist, but Gary Vee, we talked about him the other day, and he gets asked those questions a lot. And he's, had an interview, basically someone saying like, hey, exactly what you said, like they can't do the job as well as I can, or they're not working as many hours as I do. And he's like, why would they? They don't own the business. Like, this is their job. Make sure that they do a good job, but nobody's going to care about it more than you do, because this business is your baby. Mm-hmm. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's a fantastic perspective. It's like, of course I'm going to care more, because we started, we own it, we run it. So hearing it from that perspective, it kind of made me take a step back and recognize where they're coming from. With that being said, we have been selective about who we want to hire. And we've been very fortunate with the people that we've brought on. And they're fantastic. And one thing we've really tried to focus on is we want them to feel valued, because we've all been in jobs, positions, whatever it may be, whether, even if it's like in high school with like working at a fast food restaurant or something, we've all been at the point where we feel like we're just a body. And I don't like that. When I was in that situation, I hated it. You dread going to work. And so that's one thing we've tried to value is making sure that they feel cared for. And that also, to do that because they will give us better work, because they feel like, hey, these guys really care about me. And then we also have fun. Like we went to a Jazz playoff game with the company, with the crew and everything, because we want to reward them. They're doing a fantastic job. And so we want to make sure that they're valued. So when I hear people say that, my advice would be put yourself in their shoes. Of course, they're not going to love it as much as you do. And then also, again, put yourself in their shoes, and see it from their perspective of wanting to be cared for, and know that you have their back and that you trust them. Like we've had one instance, maybe two instances, where clients have said it was done poorly. And then I quickly, my first reaction is, I'm sorry to hear that you had a poor experience, but I trust our crew. I don't say this to them. This is in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, I trust my crew because they've been trained well. And then also they're incredible people, and they're honest, hardworking perfectionists, because we don't want to have big old streaks going down the window. So we trust them. And then I just ask them like, hey, what happened here? And they're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. So we go back and investigate. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, we trust our crew, and then because they feel that trust, that value, they want to give us better work. And I really think that that happens. So that would be my advice, is to trust your people. Obviously there's going to be a bad apple everywhere you go, or not everywhere, but there's going to be bad eggs or whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, if people feel valued, trusted, they want to do a good job.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too, a lot of times business owners just get in their own way. And what I mean by that, I mean a couple things by that. Like, for example, I'll share a story actually. So it was after hours. So I have an office guy, and it was after hours, and I had saw a message come through on our Facebook page, and he handles that during the office hours. But of course I saw it, and I just had this itch that I felt like I had to respond, even though it was after hours.
Uh-huh.
So I responded to the Facebook page, or the Facebook message. Well, long story short, I ended up making the situation worse because I got in the way and dabbled in his office stuff when he does the office stuff. And he does it better than I do, which at first I thought I did everything better, right? Because that's sometimes the mindset you have, like, oh, no one's going to do as good a job as me. Well, actually, when I got out of the way, he does better than I do. And it allows me to work on more growth opportunities. So I've been able to scale faster because I've gotten out of the way. But sometimes, like, as business owners, we want to go in and micromanage, and it ends up stunting your growth. It seems like.
Yeah, no, that now that you bring that up, that reminds me of a scenario that we had probably about a month ago. One of our crew members, he came back, and well, actually we were noticing a couple things happening with one of the pieces of equipment that we use. So we were brainstorming, trying to think of different things. And we couldn't quite figure out how to fix it. And so then, it was working 95% of the time, but then the other 5%, it was really frustrating. I was like, why isn't this working? Couldn't quite figure it out. About a week later, he came back. He was done for the day. We were just checking in, And he's like, hey, I think I figured it out. And he figured out a whole new system to eliminate that 5% error. And it doesn't take much more time. And but so what I'm getting at is I got out of the way, and we were trying to figure it out, but he's on the job every day doing it. He knows the stuff and he figured it out. And now it works. We do it a lot faster and a lot more efficiently because of the system that he figured out. So yeah, getting out of the way helped him grow, and then also helped our company.
I think as leaders or as business owners, we need to allow our employees or our team members to come up with ideas and to allow them sometimes to even try. Sometimes I think you even allow them to try them out, even if you know in your, like, you just know it's not going to work out, to validate them in that decision-making and idea process. Cause I know,
Sure.
like you said, your guys are in like the thick of it. I was talking to my employee the other day about it. And I said, cause we have three top priorities in our company. The first one is to deliver a phenomenal, since it's pest control experience. The second one is sales. And then the third one is to create or improve efficiencies.
Yeah.
So when they're on the front lines and they might see a way to do something better that we hadn't considered, and to encourage those ideas and stuff I think is important. So
I totally agree. Totally agree.
So Walker, tell us a little bit about, so the theme of our podcast is, we believe that success can be achieved by small and simple means. And I've always find that it's always something super small and simple that people do consistently that seems to lead to their success. What do you feel has led to your success so far with your cleaning business?
That's it. There are a lot of things. One, and we've kind of talked about a few of them, but I would say one is our method of marketing and advertising. So we've actually, personally, we haven't done any paid advertising yet. Like, we haven't done paid Facebook, paid Instagram stuff. We want to get to there, but we haven't needed it. And so one thing that is very easy and awesome, because I love working with people, is we message like influencers, so Instagram people that have a big following, particularly in our area. Whether that's up to 10,000, or not up to, like, from like 10,000, we've even had somebody that had like 85,000 followers. And so what we do is we reach out to them, and we offer a really good discount, and we say, like, we love your content. We would love to work with you, and get to know you. And so we would love to offer you a really good discount in exchange for posting on your stories, and then having like a discount code. And some people have turned it down, which of course that happens everywhere. But for the most part, people have been really receptive, and because you don't really think of cleaning your windows, but then when somebody says, we'll give you a really good discount, they're like, oh, heck yeah, let's do that. So just working with them, and we just message a handful every so often. It's something very simple, but that has really led to growing our business. That's where probably 80% of our businesses, I would say probably about 50% of the initial clients. And then from there, it has been word of mouth. And so we always ask our clients to post on like a neighborhood Facebook, or even like something like a neighborhood group me, or just a neighborhood text. And so we just ask, if you feel comfortable, we would love that. And not everybody does, but some do. And that also has grown to help us a lot. So again, those are two small things, messaging influencers, and then two, asking for referrals, essentially.
I think, because I know you as a person and I know your integrity, I think too, when you have a service that you're providing a good quality service and you're doing an honest day's work, word of mouth, like referrals are just going to come when you're providing a good service and you have good customer service. So, and I know you, so I'm sure that's helping with some of the referral process. So
hope so.
Oh, I know so. So what, I'm going to transition to another question here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have a YouTube channel, I have this podcast, and I'm doing the TikTok and stuff, and I'm trying to target people that either want to start a business or are small business owners or wanting to be entrepreneurs or whatever, having these side hustles. And I think some people are afraid to take that leap, or they're like, oh, I don't know what to start, but I want to do something. If someone was interested in starting a side business or a side hustle or, a business or whatever, what would be some advice you would give them?
Yeah, I love that question. So I can talk about this one for a long, long time. So maybe on a future podcast we can dive even deeper into it. But one thing I have two things. Surround yourself with people that are encouraging. So I have to bring up my wife in this. When I started, well, I should say when I restarted Clear Glass here in Utah, we had a really new baby. She was probably 6 months old. My wife was working full time at the time, and then, I mean, as you know, you have two kids. Kids are a lot, and then with a working spouse, that's a lot. And so I was a little nervous to bring it up, not because I was worried about how she was going to react, but just because I knew of her situation, that she was already doing so much for our family with working full time, being a mom full time. We didn't send Nora to daycare. She was just here. Granted, she was a baby. She kind of just hung out all the time. So I knew how much she was doing, and saying I want to, be away, like to start something, I have to be out there at night, when that's usually the hardest part of the day, when the kids are tired. And she didn't bat an eye. She was like, let's do it. Like, I know you have that bug, you love it. I'm totally supportive. So we came up with a plan, worked with my partner McKay, and he was in that same boat. Our daughters are really close in age, and so he was in that same boat, very similar. And so we, just having that support system, people that are encouraging, I would say, is huge. And then the second thing I would say is actually, I think, might be one of your further questions. But one of the best pieces of advice I got was from my dad. Now hopefully I don't butcher it, but it was don't rush, but don't drag your feet. And so that was referring to when I got home from my mission of getting married. That's what I wanted to do, is to search for my wife, and sure enough did. But he told me, he's like, don't rush. You don't have to be in a hurry, but don't drag your feet, because there are some people that just want to just party, and everyone does their own thing. But for me, that was a great piece of advice. So I've applied that in a lot of different ways. So in this scenario with a business or side hustle, I think it requires some research, some learning, but you can do all the reading you want and research. You can know stuff so well, but until you take action, you're obviously not going to have a business. You're not going to start making money. So that would be my advice: is don't rush, but don't drag your feet. And if you do that, like, it's fun. And then my third piece of advice is, even though it'll be challenging, it's fun. Remember why you went into it, why you're interested in it, and just remember the fun that can come from it, or that has come from having a business.
That's great advice. We're going to move on to the next segment, and we're going to have you on, because there's a lot of stuff I feel like we can pull out of it or talk more about. So I'm super excited to do future episodes with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But this next segment that we go into, we call it our final three. And these are the three final questions we ask every guest that comes on the podcast. And the first one is the most recent book you've read and one thing you've learned from it.
Yeah. So that's actually a very good question for me. Not because I have all the advice. Now, I don't read a ton. But one of my goals from this year, or for this year, is to read more. I have like specific breakdowns of that. So with that being said, I haven't read a ton this year, so this might sound kind of funny. But at the beginning of the year, my wife and I, we read it together, which I loved. It was super fun. I would encourage anybody to have like a marital book club. It was really fun. We read, like, not read it together, but we would read it separately, come back together, talk about the principles. Anyway, getting back to the question, the book was called Atomic Habits, and I am bad. I can't remember the man's name that wrote
James
it.
Clear.
Thank you.
James Clear.
Thank
And
you.
we'll probably put a link in the description if anybody's interested in that book. But yeah, it's a super good book.
It's fantastic. And again, I can talk about the principles there for a long, long time. It has so much gold in it. But the one thing that I really took away from that was just getting 1% better. I can talk about that one for a long time, but essentially, just trying to be a little bit better every day or even every week. Over time, it's exponential, and you'll be so much better than you were for a year ago or even a couple months ago. So that's been my focus this year, has been tracking my goals and then trying to be 1% better every month. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome because it's right in line with the theme of our podcast.
Yeah.
Right, by small and simple things are great things brought to pass, or you can achieve success by doing the small and simple things consistently. And James Clear, that book is fantastic, and I love that principle. And I was actually just talking to somebody else about this. It's crazy that when you're doing something consistently on a daily basis, even if you don't want to do it, if you can do that daily discipline long enough for it to become habit, you'll see it like go like this, and you don't think you're making any progress. And then all of a sudden it'll hit that compound interest, that exponential growth, and just boom. And then you're like, holy cow, look how far I've come, It's just,
there's that six pack.
Yeah. I don't have
that yet. But hopefully one day it'll just show up, right?
Yeah. As long as I'm consistent. But yeah, fantastic book. So the second question we have is, what is one principle you strive to live your life by?
That's a good question. And again, I like to talk, if you haven't noticed, even just by this episode. But so there are a lot of things that I try to live by. But I one that I would say right now is assume the best. Whether that's in your current situation, assume the best with your personal self, but then also assuming the best with the people that you're surrounded by, because you never know what anybody's going through. Whether they had a really crappy day and they're driving on the freeway and give you the bird because you're going a little bit slower, just we're driving, we're human. And I could really let that get to me and really get me frustrated. And sometimes I do. But a lot of the times what I try to remember is to assume the best and just remember, man, they must have had a really hard day. Or even, just with people at work. Anyway, you could apply that to so many different things. But I say that because it helps me personally be a lot happier, and a lot kinder and a lot more patient. But then also it helps me have a lot more empathy, one of the two. I always mix those words up. But it helps me try to see things in a different light and to understand where people are coming from. And overall, it just makes me a much happier person.
That's awesome. So Walker, tell us a little bit where people, oh no, I got to do my third question. You've already kind of answered this question.
I did.
I'm brushing it over it. So besides the advice your dad's given you, what has been one of the greatest pieces of advice you've been given?
Oh, where to begin? Again, I talk about my wife a lot. I love her, so it's probably a good thing. But she, obviously, she's had a huge part in my life. But one piece of advice, I mean, we talk all the time. Her desk is right there, so we work with each other all the time. I just had one in my mind and I kind of just blanked on it. That's what it was. It's not like a specific phrase or whatnot. It's just kind of been over time what we've talked about in the principle. but essentially do what you love. And she is so encouraging of that, and making sure that I enjoy my work, my everyday life, whether that's my full-time job or like side hustles or whatever it may be. She's very encouraging of do what you love and what you enjoy. And because we always hear people say, like retire by fire, is that what it's called? I forget the
Financial independence, retire early.
yes,
That
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic. I would love to have, income coming in without me even thinking, and be able to live in Bora Bora, like that'd be incredible. But I think I would go a little crazy just being, not having structure. And so what we've talked about is do what you love. And if I really love something, I'm going to want to continue to do that for the rest of my life. And so if I get to the point when I'm, 65 and I'm still loving what I'm doing, I'll continue working, or even 50. I hope I can get to that point to where, before it's like I can make the decision to retire early, but I want to be in a place where if I want to continue working, I love what I'm doing. And so that's one thing I have really loved that she said is love what you do. What you love.
That's called freedom.
Exactly.
I think, right?
Yeah,
if you're in a financial position to where you can decide whether you want to work on a passion project, a or a nonprofit or whatever, you can do what you love. And which is crazy because sometimes when you do that, the money follows.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and you could even flip that as like do what you love and love what you do. No, do what you love and then love what you do.
Yeah.
So it kind of anyway, yeah. So you can kind of flip it the other way.
Cool.
But yeah, freedom. It's a good one.
So Walker, where can people find out a little bit more info about you if they wanted to reach out or link up with you?
Yeah, so they could on LinkedIn, just Walker Sandstrom. We can, if you want, we could put the link in the
I'll put
comments.
the link in the description.
Yeah, and then even just our website for Clear Glass, because there's a place that you can reach out there, and or even our Instagram page. It's Clear Glass Window Cleaning. You can just search that, you'll find it pop up.
Cool.
So yeah, just any of those ways you can reach out.
Cool. And like I said, I'll put those in the show notes. Man, thanks for coming on. I'm glad we were able to get you on, and we'll definitely have you in on future episodes and continue to see where your business goes. And I'm looking forward to having you on again.
Well, thanks for having me, Jake. This has been awesome. Excited to be back.